up, everybody? How you all doing? Hopefully you can hear me. I think my mic was a little bit low again. So just let me know how the audio levels are. Testing, 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 testing. They seem to be okay. A little bit low, but not too bad. So how is everybody? Hope you had a great weekend. And again, we'll give just a couple of minutes here. Let everybody kind of filter in as everybody usually gets here a little bit late. It is low. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, man. I don't know why it's like low sometimes and not other times. I don't know why that is. Yeah, I know you are using the microphone. I know that. So what's probably going to end up happening then is the audio is going to end up being a little low on my microphone, and then things are going to get kind of loud when I play the audio is what I'm thinking. Seeing if I can get something on here. All right, Brian says it sounds good. Yeah, the drops are probably going to be loud. Here, I might be able to adjust that a little bit. Hold on just a second. So here's what I'm going to do. The clip that I'm going to play today, I'm going to turn down to 90% instead of the typical 100%. So my microphone, my microphone is like, I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know why it's being all weird on me. I don't really know. So not really sure. Sorry, not much I can do about it because I can't go beyond the setting that I have for it right now. So I don't really know what to do. But I did try to turn down the clip that I'm going to play for you today. I turned that down to 90%. So that should hopefully help mitigate that a little bit. If it's still a little bit loud, we can adjust that and hopefully have everything kind of done right. And I don't know what happened, folks. I really don't. I made some adjustments in a totally different program, and apparently it was just a little bit of an issue with this microphone. The problem is I can't screw around with it too much because I broadcast to the radio station with it. So, all right. Well, I guess the first thing is, please, if you haven't done so already, make sure on YouTube that you subscribe to my channel. It is totally free. And make sure you hit that like button and also click on the bell icon to get notified of any new videos or live streams that I'm doing. This week will be the last week for all 5 days being free. So what we're going to go is we're going to go to the premium service next week. I ended up finding out that on Podbean, there's two different services that they have. They have a premium service, and then they have a patron service. So I'm going to use the premium service. The patron program is not going to be functional at this point in time, and it's not linked up to my accounts or anything like that. Admins, sponsors, I will get with you probably on Discord on how you're going to be able to get access to it. And it's probably going to require me kicking a couple of bucks back to you just to make that free. But I did figure out a way to do that. They don't let me give it away for free. And so it's a whole process, but I'll explain it to you, and it's easily rectified on my end. So I'll explain that to everybody who is an admin or a sponsor who's going to be getting premium access for free. So everything else that ends up happening, what we're going to do next week, again, is we are going to go one free episode per week. Not sure which day that's going to be at this point in time. I may do a poll on Facebook for that. And then every other episode is going to be for premium subscribers only, okay? And you can subscribe for as little as $2 a month, and you can even pay for a year in advance and get 1 month free. That's the lowest tier. If you want to get some prizes and things like that, some gifts, you can go ahead and do the higher end tiers if you prefer. It's entirely up to you. And again, that's going to help me offset the cost of actually doing the stream, since I pay for everything myself, and I can't be monetized anywhere because, well, I'm me. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. But all right, I guess the other thing is, so we did the YouTube, subscribe, like, share, hit the bell icon. If you're on Twitch, subscribe or follow on Twitch. Facebook, make sure you like my Facebook page, and on Twitter, make sure you follow me at RealKCH. Other than that, I wanted to go ahead and touch on this because I've covered this quite a bit, and I've also told all of you that you really need to listen to Dan Crenshaw's podcast. Dan Crenshaw's podcast is fantastic. It has a lot of great information, Ted Cruz's podcast is also really good. Representative Nunes's podcast is also really good. And what that allows you to do is kind of get some inside information about what has been happening in Congress. And Dan Crenshaw's breaking down of the stimulus package as it was happening was a very valuable resource. You know, you're reading articles and you got, you know, little bits here and there, and then he was able to kind of fill in the blanks on what was actually happening. So that was nice to see. And the other thing is that Dan Crenshaw has been giving you very similar information to what I have been giving you as far as the timeline of what the Trump administration was doing and when. And that is important because there is a real timeline here, okay? And real things happened on January 6th when the Trump administration first started acting on this virus. And that's important because the World Health Organization really wasn't notified of anything until December 31st. So within a week, the Trump administration and the CDC were acting, okay? Within a week of the world finding out, they were acting. Now, we know that the first case was officially diagnosed on the 19th of December, but it took a whistleblower to get that information out. By the time the World Health Organization had been officially notified, they say it was December 31st, and on January 6th, the president and his administration began acting on the virus. Whereas you get to the last 2 days of February, and Democrats are still telling you, and members of the media were still telling you that this virus was not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Trump is a racist, a xenophobe, and he's trying to distract from the impeachment process. So it's important that everybody understand that timeline is accurate. And when Dan Crenshaw brings this up, he's giving you all of the facts. And he was also in Congress where they were getting briefings on this. You have members of Congress telling you that nobody was telling them what was going on. That's not true. There were regular briefings with the House Intelligence Committee throughout January. There was a full briefing on the 24th of January for the Senate, I believe that was, and almost no senators showed up. And that's because that was the last day to submit questions for the impeachment trial. And so they chose to do that instead of actually listening to the Trump administration's warnings on the virus. Now, that's on the senators, okay? But you have to understand something. At that time, the World Health Organization, China, our experts who are getting their information from the World Health Organization were all saying the same thing. This virus isn't that big of a deal. It is easily contained, likely not transferred from person to person. All of these things that the experts were telling everybody. So if they weren't going back and revising history and telling everybody that they were taking it seriously and Trump wasn't, if that wasn't happening, nobody would even be mad at Democrats or the press justifiably because they were getting their information from the World Health Organization. We now know China lied. We now know that the World Health Organization lied. They've now admitted it. And that's where all of this misinformation started going way back into January. So I wanted to go and play this clip because Bill Maher, he's brought up, and by the way, I got to give Bill Maher credit because Bill Maher has attacked progressives and social justice warriors over the Wuhan virus, Chinese coronavirus stuff, because they're trying to be all social justice warrior on that, and he's ripped liberals for that. So he gets some credit there. But Bill Maher has brought up the same debunked stuff that is consistently, you've seen it on people who have hopped on to this live stream. You've seen it all over social media. It's easily debunked, but Bill Maher and a lot of people who are using this for political expediency are still buying into those narratives in spite of the fact that the timeline completely and utterly disagrees with this narrative that Trump didn't act, okay? So I want you to listen to this exchange because if you believe that Trump didn't act appropriately, Bill Maher has those questions, and he asked that of Dan Crenshaw, and you're actually going to get answers for that, okay? And it's important that you get those answers for that. Because a lot of people, again, they're just running around believing myths that are not true about this whole thing. And what has happened now is the president has been forced to defend himself and his administration, and I will cover this on today's show, while the media is now attacking him for defending himself when they were the ones that were spreading lies about him for all these past several months. So anyway, I want you to go ahead and listen to this. This is Representative Dan Crenshaw, former Navy SEAL, representative from Texas. He's talking with Bill Maher about the timeline of when Trump started doing things. Did Trump not take it seriously? Other people in the administration warning the president about these things. I want you to pay very, very close attention to this because if you've got 4 or 5 minutes, you sit down. Don't don't get distracted. Listen to everything that is discussed here because it is important that you know the timeline as it is correct, okay? So pay attention.
Okay, because he was warned. This did not have to happen. Alex Azar, his Health and Human Services guy, January 18th, he warned him about this. And again on January 30th, Trump said he was being an alarmist. Peter Navarro, somebody else who talks to Trump a lot, told him directly January 29th, you got to get ahead of this. February 10th.
2 days later, he implemented a restrictive travel ban from China, which he was widely criticized for. That same day, on January 31st, Nancy Pelosi proposed the No Ban Act, which would be congressional limitation on what President Trump's actually able to do with that travel restriction.
Okay, but he lies about that. First of all, he didn't.
How does he lie about it? What do you mean?
He said he stopped people coming in from China. He did not. He said he was ahead of it. 43 countries did it before we did. There are still people coming in from China. He only stopped foreign nationals.
Yeah, okay, let me address that because I know that's what people are saying right now. But the reality is, it was about 40,000 people came in after that. These were U.S. citizens and green card holders and passport holders being repatriated. U.S. citizens. So you have to make the argument then that we shouldn't allow them in. I mean, it sounds to me like you're fully agreeing with President Trump on this when everybody else disagreed with him. And if you're saying that you wish that travel restriction had been more extreme, okay, fine. I mean, you apparently had the foresight back then, but when nobody else did. But the fact is, if Joe Biden was in charge at that moment, he's already said he wouldn't have done it. He criticized it at the time. Nancy Pelosi actually proposed legislation to stop it.
Okay, so, but people are still coming in from China. It wasn't just foreign nationals, but let's get off that. Let me just go back to the timeline for a minute. February 10th, after these warnings, he says it's going to go away in April with the heat because he had a hunch. February 25th, he goes to India. This is 4 days after the White House Coronavirus Task Force said we're going to have to lock down the country, and Dr. Nancy Messonnier, who's in charge of the Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases. Wait a second, let me just finish. She announced this on the 26th. On the 25th, that we were going to have to lock down the country. He said the next day, 15 people have it, and it's soon going to be close to zero. March 6th, he said anyone who wants a test can get it, which is still completely
let me stick to February.
Completely wrong.
As you go forward, because you mentioned February 25th. The day before, February 24th, that's when the administration requested $2.5 billion from Congress to fulfill, CDC, NIH, and FDA funding to combat the virus and the potential spread of it. What happened right then? I'll tell you because I was in Congress and I know what happened. Did we vote on a supplemental funding bill? No. Did we wait days to vote? No. Still didn't vote on it. You know what we voted on later that week? Nancy Pelosi, the only thing she would put on the floor to vote on was a bill to ban flavored tobacco. That's what actually happened. It was only a week later that we actually voted on supplemental funding that the administration requested. Your criticism appears to be based in one thing, that Trump was overly optimistic. That's his style. Again, you can criticize it. That's fine. But it's not connected to the actions that were actually taken. Because if I back up even further, February 14th, CDC announces ongoing work with 5 laboratories to perform community-based influenza surveillance and study the spread of the virus. We're in a fact-finding mode in February. People forget this. People keep calling February this lost month. But it's really not. That's an easy and cheap accusation because there's no big, bold moves taken like there was in January or like there was in March. But the reality is our government was working to create that test. Now, did they work as fast as we would have liked? And of course not. And there's a lot of reasons for that, which I'm happy to go into. By March 3rd, there was only 102 cases in the United States. And yet I'm hearing criticism that we should have been locked down weeks earlier. But would you think the American people would have accepted that with only 100 cases in the United States? Italy didn't lock down until March 10th. Spain not until March 14th. UK not until later in March. Places like Sweden's never locked down. And so I provide all of that context as we try to basically accuse this man of he's being accused of having blood on his hands. And context is so important here.
Well, it is. And also, it's not just about being optimistic. It's about being right. The world was aware of this. And since when does America take its lead from Italy and Spain?
Well, because those are where the outbreaks were happening.
I understand.
Right? Well, I'm pointing it out again for context.
But
if we're going to criticize somebody's actions, we have to do it in the context of the facts they knew at the time. And so I'm just trying to be fair here, that I don't really care about defending him or his actions. I just care about letting people know the truth. And when people make these accusations, I have to ask them a question. Is the goal to make Trump look bad, or is the goal to get to the truth? Because there's two different sets of answers for that.
Okay, but sometimes they converge. Sometimes the truth is that somebody who says, I have a hunch,
they converge.
I have a hunch this is going to go away. Is that someone you would want to have served with? I mean, my God, I don't understand, why someone with your resume, you were in Fallujah, for God's sakes. Would you want someone, a commander, to say that to you, to blame everybody else if something goes wrong, and then to say, I have a hunch the enemy's not going to be in there. Let's attack.
Sure, no, I understand that. So here's how I would describe my answer to that. When bullets are flying past my head, I don't need to raise my voice. And I write about this in my book too. Calm breeds calm, panic breeds panic. Being an optimistic, and exuding positivity and calmness in crisis is exactly how we ask our SEALs to lead. Now, I'm not sure I see a lot of evidence for blaming others, maybe blaming China, although there's a lot of evidence for that. So maybe that's a good place to lay blame. But I
did it last
Trump
week.
Blaming, Democrats here, or he's exposing hypocrisy, and maybe we're confusing that with blame. But no, I mean, again, calm breeds calm, and that's how we would lead in the SEAL teams.
Okay, so I've tried responding to Alejandro several times because they don't know the timeline. For some reason, the chat's not working and not loading it up. So apologize about that. But I appreciate Alejandro conceding the argument and admitting that they lost the discussion, even though I really wasn't debating with him. The fact of the matter is, every time you go back and you look at one of the comments that people have tried to associate with President Trump about minimizing the virus or anything else, what you have to look at is the timeline. And at the time that Trump was saying some of those things that people were accusing him of minimizing the virus, at that time, the CDC and the World Health Organization were saying the exact same things. Nobody knew at that time that the CDC was being misinformed by the World Health Organization. We know now, and in fact, a lot of people still pretend that that is not happening. So, in fact, a bunch of articles over the weekend still pretended that the World Health Organization is not culpable in covering anything up from China, that the idea that it's coming from a lab is a conspiracy in spite of the overwhelming evidence that would suggest that, and the near universal reaction, I should say, or the opinion of the intelligence community that the virus came from this lab. So Alejandro brought up some points from Periscope. I tried to respond to that. Again, for some reason it wasn't working. I don't know if there was a glitch or what in the system, but I wasn't able to post a response. But so there's that one. So that one went through. But the bottom line is, when you say that Trump has been all over the place, if you look at the timeline, he was just telling everybody what the World Health Organization was telling the CDC, and the CDC was telling him. And again, if you go back in time and you want to say, look, we felt that he wasn't taking this very seriously in mid-January, okay, but you have to look at what the World Health Organization was telling everybody, and we didn't have any data. The reason that we didn't have any data is because China wasn't releasing any data, and they weren't allowing any teams that were going to China to investigate to get that data. We didn't start getting good data sets until late in February and in early March. So that becomes the issue. Okay, I'm glad the stream is working. My chat widget wasn't working. I don't know what the deal was. So Bill Maher was repeating false talking points that had already been debunked long ago. That's the point. If you look at the timeline, and this is why this is important, and Dan Crenshaw did own him. If you want to pretend that Dan Crenshaw did not own Bill Maher, you're a partisan hack. There's not much I can do for you. That's your confirmation bias. So on December 31st, China reports the discovery of the virus after whistleblowers went around the Chinese government and notified the world that we were dealing with a potential pandemic, okay? Or epidemic, I should say. Even though we now know that China realized that they were dealing with a pandemic at that time, they just didn't tell anybody about it for 6 days. So the first case officially was December 19th, although we believe that it was in November, and we've got evidence in California that this actually goes back to October, okay? So anyway, January 31st, we're all told about it. The World Health Organization last week admitted that they believed it was human-to-human transmission at that time, and yet for several weeks they continued to tell everybody that there was no human-to-human transmission. They continued to tell people that it was easily contained, everything else. January 6th, okay, less than a week after the world was told about this, the CDC, the Trump administration, issued travel notices from Wuhan, China due to the spread. January 7th, the next day, they established incident management system to better share and respond to information about the virus. On the 11th, just a couple of days later, they issued a level 1 travel health notice for Wuhan. Keep in mind, the CDC is the Trump administration. Okay? So I don't know if I lost the stream on Twitter and Twitch and things like that, or Facebook. I don't know. I'm only getting notifications from YouTube, so I'm not exactly sure what is happening there. So if you're trying to write me and it's not showing up, I apologize. Then you have January 17th. Okay, so this is 17 days after everybody learned that the virus even existed. 17 days after we learned it existed. The CDC, the Trump administration, began implementing public health entry screenings at 3 U.S. airports that received the most travelers from Wuhan. That's San Francisco, JFK, and Los Angeles. On the 20th, Dr. Fauci announced the National Institutes of Health is already working on the development of a vaccine for the coronavirus. By the way, that vaccine is currently in trials right now. I have this amazing article from somebody who received the vaccine and what it's like. January 21st, the CDC activated the Emergency Operations Center to provide ongoing support to the coronavirus response. On the 23rd of January, they sought special emergency authorization from the FDA to allow states to use its newly developed coronavirus test. Okay? Now, that's January 23rd. That is 23 days after we learned that the virus even existed. Okay? All of this has been happening within the first month. Now, at this time, impeachment is happening. Okay? Impeachment is happening. Congress is being briefed in the House Intelligence Committee. The Senate is being briefed, although senators didn't show up to that briefing. The vast majority of them did not. All of this was going on while Democrats and the U.S. media were telling you that the virus was not a threat, that Trump was overreacting. Okay? Now all of a sudden he's underreacting. But at the time, the news coverage, and I've showed you the headlines and I played you the montages, at that time, Trump was being accused of overreacting in order to deflect away from the impeachment trial, okay? All of this was a Trump conspiracy to get you to focus on the idea that there's a pandemic or an epidemic coming in order for you to not focus on his impeachment, okay? That was the U.S. media and U.S. Democratic Party's talking points at that time, all right? Everybody can try and rewrite the timeline all they want, like Alejandro on Twitter, who lost the debate and then proceeded to go to ad hominem attacks because they didn't have anything to argue anymore. On January 27th, the CDC issued a level 3 travel health notice urging Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China due to the virus. That is less than a month after we learned the virus even existed. Okay? All of this is being done in the Trump administration. Remember, the CDC is a part of his administration. Okay? The task force and everything else are starting to work out. The White House announced on the 29th the formation of the Coronavirus Task Force to help monitor and contain the spread of the virus and provide updates to the president. That task force met every single day for the remainder of the impeachment trial. Okay? And again, this is all in the Trump administration. And at the time, Biden is telling everybody that Trump is a racist and a xenophobe, that the travel ban is silly, China's not the enemy, China's our friend. The Democrats are saying this is all about deflecting away from impeachment. The media is telling you that you shouldn't be worried about the virus. It's just the flu, it's just the flu, it's just the flu. Okay, this is all. And again, the media and Democrats can be forgiven for that because they were misled by the World Health Organization. And that is imperative that everybody keep that in perspective. And if you go back in time and you're saying, well, Trump was soft on the virus on January 15th. Yeah, but he still took action in case it was bad. And his words that the virus was probably going to go away were coming from the World Health Organization and the CDC. Now, at the time, if Trump had said this is going to be an epidemic/pandemic on January 15th, as some people are trying to say he should have done, if he had done that, And you've got Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, the whole CDC apparatus, the World Health Organization, and everybody telling you this is not a big deal. It's easily contained, not even transmitted from person to person, which they were doing on January 15th, by the way, because they tripled down on that story throughout the first 3 weeks of January. If he had done that, he would have been attacked left and right as trying to fearmonger even more than he was already being accused of doing, and not listening to the experts. The experts were the CDC, the World Health Organization, Fauci, Birx, everybody, and the president was repeating everything that they were telling him in his daily briefings with the task force that was put together in the last quarter of January. On the 29th, they announced the formation of the coronavirus task force to monitor. On the 31st, this is now officially 1 month after learning the virus existed, okay? The Trump administration declared the coronavirus a public health emergency. On January 31st, it was declared a public health emergency by the Trump administration, okay? Now, this gets left out of the media's coverage of this almost altogether. So as that was happening, the Democrats were telling you to go to parades, go out to eat, that Trump administration is still doing racist xenophobia. This is all a deflection over his legal troubles and everything. So 1 month, literally 1 month to the day after learning the virus existed, the United States and the Trump administration had declared a public health emergency. Nothing else that you say about Trump at that point compares to what he actually did. And Dan Crenshaw pointed that out to Bill Maher. It's like, look, you can say that his wording might have been soft on it, but you have to look at his actions. He was taking it seriously from January 6th. Less than a week after we learned the virus existed, he was taking it seriously and preparing just in case it blew up into something else. Now, he was, again, repeating what the World Health Organization was telling the entire world at the time, and everybody is criticizing him for not listening to the experts when, in fact, he was repeating what the experts were saying, okay? I know because I was covering it from the middle of January when most people were ignoring the story. So anyway, on January 31st, declared a coronavirus public health emergency, announced Chinese travel restrictions, suspended entry into the United States of foreign nationals who pose a risk of transmitting the virus. The Department of Homeland Security on the 31st also took critical steps to funnel all flights from China into just 7 U.S. airports, okay? That is 1 month after we learned the virus existed. So even if you think that Trump wasn't handling the virus right from January 6th to January 30th, okay? Even if you think that, and I will concede that point because you want the president of the United States, since he has an R next to his name, to be a psychic, even though you would have attacked him if he was absolutely predicting this thing right at that time. You would have attacked him for not listening to the experts and fear-mongering, and you would have completely ignored him. People like Alejandro would have completely ignored him, okay? But even if you agree, from January 6th through January 30th, that the president was not hard enough on the virus after taking all of those steps that I've just told you, if the first 3 weeks of us knowing about this virus, if you think the president was not being hard enough, fine. The problem is that he still acted 2 months before Democrats in Congress would have done anything. At the end of the day, nothing else matters, ladies and gentlemen. The president of the United States took the virus seriously and started preparing the country and even diverting resources to the world in order to prevent the virus from spreading. He did that 2 months. 2 months before any member of Congress on the Democratic side of things would have lifted a finger to do a damn thing. And that includes Joe Biden, who just 3 weeks ago attacked the travel ban as being a stupid idea. Okay? Just 3 weeks ago. He's now changed his mind because all of the experts have come out and said that that was the right thing to do. So it doesn't matter what you see in the press conferences, nothing else. What matters is, what did the administration do? When did they start doing it? And the people who are attacking the administration for not doing things fast enough, what were they saying that we should have been doing at that time? And it all comes back to Trump being more right than anybody else in American politics and most of the U.S. media, okay? The only people that get more credit than the president for acting on this quicker in politics, okay, or in media would be Senator Cotton, Tom Cotton from Arkansas. He sounded the alarms on this very early before anybody else. And then, of course, you have Tucker Carlson, who took the virus very seriously in early January. Okay, those are the only two people that outpaced the President of the United States in taking it serious in mainstream politics or mainstream media. Those are the only two. Everybody else, through the end of February and the first couple of days of March, everybody else minimized the virus and attacked the president through all of that, okay? I just went over only the first 3 weeks. And he was being attacked for it that entire time. Nothing that Alejandro or anybody else who wants to disagree with the timeline can say takes away from the fact that the Trump administration and the President of the United States took this seriously 2 months before anybody else wanted to. Nothing is going to take that away. If Biden had been president, nothing would have been done until March, and we would have been in a huge, huge problem. This situation would have been much worse. That's the fact. That's the reality. Based on what Biden has said publicly and based on what the media has continued to say, everybody would have waited 2 additional months to make a single move on this. Everybody seems to think that we had tens of thousands of cases in January, and we didn't. As Crenshaw pointed out and had to remind Bill Maher, at the beginning of March, we only had like 100 cases. So it's important that people understand this timeline because it's inarguable. And this has been the entire point of everything that I've said. You get people who, I guess they have confirmation bias. People like Alejandro have confirmation bias. They don't know what they're talking about. They want to be mad at the president because they don't like the president. They're not mad at the president for what the president actually did or didn't do. And they don't give a damn about everybody else in U.S. media or U.S. politics that said that the president shouldn't have done the stuff that he thinks the president didn't do enough of. So even at the very end of it, okay, if people like Alejandro hate the president because they think the president should have done more in early and mid-January, you would have attacked him, Alejandro. You would have attacked him for disagreeing with and ignoring the experts at the CDC and the World Health Organization. Why? Because nobody knew the World Health Organization was lying at that time. Nobody knew. He was repeating what the experts were briefing him on a regular basis. That's it. If you don't like what he said in early and mid-January about the virus, or even since then, if you don't like that, that's fine. But you have to acknowledge that he was getting that information from the experts. He was repeating what the experts were saying while he was taking precautions in case the experts were wrong, which is exactly what you would want a good leader to do, right? You have a backup plan. Hey, they're telling me that this is the case. When Maher brought up the whole the virus is going to die in April thing, because we covered that pretty extensively on the show. There was a ton of medical researchers and not biologists, but anyway, the biomedicine people. I apologize about not getting that term right. All of those people were saying, we think that heat kills the virus. They were all saying it. And then it got to a point a couple of weeks later where they're saying, we're actually not really sure if the heat kills it. But for a couple of weeks there, they were saying that heat kills the virus, and when we get to summer, this virus is going to go away. I know because I was covering it every day on the show, and I was repeating and I was reading to you what those medical experts were saying. And those reports are coming out of the CDC. Those reports are coming out of the World Health Organization as well, epidemiologists, thank you, Alex, as well as experts in Europe. They were all saying this, okay? And for the longest period of time, nobody even knew that this thing was going to be a problem in the Western world. And we talked about that quite a bit, too, as we were covering this, until we came back from a weekend where Italy had 80 cases on a Friday, and then Italy had 3,000 cases on a Monday. And at that point, that's when the market went down, and everybody said, crap, this is going to hit the Western world, too. That happened, and that changed everything. That changed all of the talking points. It changed all of the models. It changed everything in that weekend, okay? And pretending that the President of the United States would have been accepted for disagreeing with the experts up until that point in order to better prepare the United States, That is so Monday night quarterbacking. It's foolish. It's ridiculous. It's not rooted in reality. It's intellectually dishonest. It is just simply as preposterous as you could possibly make it. People like Alejandro, who may or may not. I'm sure that Alejandro, when he lost his little exchange with me earlier, just decided to call me a name and then huff off because he didn't have anything else to say and he didn't want his world narrative to be shattered. But the reality is Dan Crenshaw owned Bill Maher. Bill Maher used all of the exact same talking points that we hear on a regular basis on my show and on this live stream when it comes through. And every single one of them has already been debunked. And the fact is, people are lazy. They're lazy because they keep repeating the same old crap that was debunked a long time ago. They keep doing that. Anthony Fauci was telling people in late February that it was okay to go out and go on vacation. If you would have accepted the President of the United States in January or even the early part of February telling you, stay home, don't go out, you all would have attacked him for being ridiculous and ignoring the experts, because there's Anthony Fauci, one of the leading experts in the world, certainly the leading expert in the United States, telling everybody, yeah, you can go on vacation. Why not? Why wouldn't you go on vacation? And he's doing that in February. The idea that anybody would have accepted what Trump was saying at that time is preposterous. Completely and utterly preposterous. And as I have said countless times on this live stream and on my radio show and on my website and on my social media, nobody would have a right to be mad at the Democratic Party, and nobody would have a right to be mad at the U.S. media for getting it wrong all of those weeks, because they were lied to by the World Health Organization. And the only person who said, if the World Health Organization is wrong, I want to be prepared, that person, that one individual, was President Donald Trump. That's it. At the end of the day, nothing takes away from the very simple fact that he acted 2 months before his political opponents and the U.S. media wanted any action to be done. That kills the argument against him right then and there. Right then and there. You know, you can't have the President of the United States out there telling you, hey, this is a big deal, people are going to die, and then miraculously accept it while you have the World Health Organization, the CDC, and Dr. Anthony Fauci telling everybody, go on vacation, this thing is totally safe. It's easily contained, doesn't transfer from person to person, there's not that many cases, don't worry about it. You would have never accepted President Trump telling you otherwise. You would have never accepted it. So when you look at the timeline here, well, and that's just it, Alex, and a bunch of people pointed that out. Bill Maher says a lot of things that aren't accurate, but he gets back up from the audience cheering him. And then it seems like, oh, that was a great point, but it wasn't a great point. Comedians rely on that. Comedians who try to get political rely on the bobbleheads in their audience to justify their position, even if their position is utterly ludicrous. You know, perfect example of that is the famous clip of Ann Coulter telling everybody early on, Donald Trump's got the best chance to win this thing on Bill Maher's show, and everybody laughing in hysterics in her face at how wrong she was going to be. And of course, she had the last laugh. She was right. Because she knows politics a hell of a lot more than Bill Maher or anybody else sitting there on that stage or anybody sitting in Bill Maher's audience. And she hit the nail right on the head. But I only went through the timeline from December 31st to January 31st. I didn't even give you everything that happened in February when Democrats and the U.S. media were still telling you that Trump was lying about the virus being a big deal. We've given you the headlines. We've given you the montages. We've given you the legislation. We've given you the congressional record. We've given you the full timeline. And anybody who deviates from all of that, they are either, one, monumentally ignorant, willfully so, and have chosen not to inform themselves because confirmation bias is going to get in the way of their narrative, and they don't want that, or they're lying to you for political reasons. That's it. There's no third option, okay? Because this information has been out there for way too long. You're either ignorant or you're lying. And people like Alejandro are probably ignorant because he's clearly not willing to look at the real timeline. And there's a bunch of people that are pretending the CDC is not a part of the Trump administration. The CDC is a part of the executive branch. They're under the president's purview. So when they do things, the president is aware of it, okay? And any notion otherwise is just, like I said, it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. All right, so before I head to the comments, I want to thank our great sponsor, silverfoxart.com. And I was just chatting with silverfoxart.com, and you'll see an example of their great work when they made my logo, which is backlit here at the end screen of the live stream. But I was just chatting with him because he wants to do a banana face coupon code. So here's what he said. If you commission a work of art at silverfoxart.com, just put banana face 25, banana face 25 in the subject line when you reach out, and then they can go ahead and give you that discount. Silverfoxart.com is also offering 10% off for veterans. So if you are a veteran like I am, you can get 10% off of your work, again, by going to silverfoxart.com. I want to thank them for the sponsorship. So, yeah, BananaFace25 is the coupon code. And I understand that he's working on some custom pieces as well. I'll put the coupon code tomorrow. I'll put it in the... I just reached out to him right before the show because I had to go out on the motorcycle today. I will put it in the content of the video, if you will, in the description. So you'll be able to have that code right there, okay? All right, so let's head over and check out some of the comments here. Again, I don't know what happened to some of the comments earlier. I'm not exactly sure. I was trying to respond to Alejandro, and it wasn't letting me. And then I noticed that I wasn't getting any additional comments. So I'm just going to test the Periscope. So that one did go through. Okay. Yeah, the banana face thing's hysterical. It's funny. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think that Obama wants anything to do with Biden. Obama knows that Biden. Now I sound like Joe. Obama knows that Biden is a liability to the Democratic Party. But again, it's better to lose with Biden than win with Bernie. Okay, not that they would have won with Bernie, but that's the line of thinking there. Okay. Let's see. You know how weddings are having cardboard guests? Night show hosts could have cadre of bobbleheads. Yes, I actually did that with a coffee for Casey, the cardboard cutout wedding. I think that was in Michigan. Let's see. Facebook stream didn't look like it was live. Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened. Clearly something happened. It was working and then it went down. So I don't know what ended up happening with it. But we also lost like half of the audience right away. So half of the audience just went away. Let's see. Where's your bike vlog? It's on the YouTube channel. Just look in the Moto Vlogs. I got to throw up another one here. So, Dave, if you're on my YouTube channel, just go into the playlist for Moto Vlogs. And there's not that many up there because I was having problems with the GoPro. And I just ordered a DJI Osmo Action. So that's going to be my new Moto Vlog camera. My GoPro right now, it won't even connect to the GoPro app or connect to my computer anymore. Like, it's just a total piece of trash. Let's see. The Banana Face thing. Banana Face was a troll that hopped on here at one point last week and got asked a very simple question and then scampered away because they were scared. Let's see. There was an article in Newsweek that there was a massive spike in COVID-19 positive cases after the protest in Kentucky. Watch for this to be the new talking point for the mainstream media. Yeah, and here's the thing. Last week, and I told everybody about this last week because this is important, what ended up happening is the CDC issued a directive nationally for all possible and probable COVID-19 cases to be added to the numbers. Even if they had not been confirmed to be coronavirus, they wanted them all added. So there was this huge spike that went up everywhere, okay? That was a national thing, and that was a directive from the CDC. It does not mean, okay, that there was an actual increase in those cases. It was simply a directive to include more people. So as a result, the total number of infections went up and the total number of deaths went up. But the chart on the CDC's website for new cases by origin date continues to have declined since April 2nd. So that is very, very good news, okay? Most of the motovlogs are not in 4K. 4K is actually a little silly when it comes to the motovlog thing. Most of them are going to be in 1080p. So the audio is not going to be 5.1 or anything like that. It's all action cam stuff. Let's see. What is Whitmer going to say today? It's a good question. I don't know. I have no idea what she's going to say. Corn Pop will be Biden's VP pick. That's funny. And the amount of people who don't know who Corn Pop is continues to make me giggle. All right. Let's see. Speaking of VP nods, the initial push for Michelle Obama has begun. Not going to happen. I know that people are on that, but no, I highly doubt that, ladies and I don't think Michelle Obama would hitch herself to that ride. So even if you think that Michelle Obama is going to somehow qualify Joe Biden for the White House since he's got dementia, she's not going to hitch herself to a Biden campaign. She's only going to hitch herself to a campaign that could potentially win. Let's see. Yes, if two gangbangers kill each other and they have Wuhan flu, it will count as COVID-19. It will. In most of those cases. Again, that's a directive from the CDC. Gretchen Whitmer was attacked for that as inflating the numbers last week. She wasn't inflating those numbers. That was a directive from the federal government, okay? I hope people remember what Whitmer did during all of this next time election comes around. Well, I mean, look, when you have Politico rewriting articles about her and pretending that she didn't do things that she didn't do, I don't know what to tell you, you know? They're talking about how she's got this positive praise for her response, but her response has been a disaster. It has been an absolute and total disaster. And the reason that Michigan was late in getting things done is because she didn't fill out the paperwork to get federal aid. That's on her. Okay? That's not the Trump administration's fault. That's Gretchen Whitmer's administration's fault. So, all right. Last minute, ladies and gentlemen, then I'm going to have to bounce on out of here because the stream went long a little bit again. I always plan on doing this for like a half an hour, and then it ends up being almost an hour every time. So, and I got to make sure I get set up for the radio show. I still have to send Joe a lot more audio. I have tons of audio today to play. Tons. So, last question / comment for the last minute. Nothing? Nope. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. Thank you, Patriot. Appreciate that. All right, will do. Okay, cool. No questions or anything, then I will move on. So I'm going to go to the end screen, ladies and gentlemen. The end screen is going to have a picture of one of the art pieces that silverfoxart.com made for me with my logo. Okay, and these are 3-dimensional wood pieces, very high quality. By the way, Darren, I apologize. I have to get you my review on the product, so we'll get you that. I kind of unplugged a little bit over the weekend, to be honest with you. And I did make some knives yesterday, at least through heat treating. So again, silverfoxart.com. In the end screen, you'll see a picture of one of his pieces that he made with my logo. And again, like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that stuff. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that bell icon to get notified when I go live. And we're trying to get to 10,000 likes on the Facebook page. We're almost there. And I'd appreciate any help that you have in sharing the video streams when I do this every day. Next week, we'll go premium for 4 out of the 5 shows. So we'll have one free show every week for everybody. And then everybody else is going to have to be a premium subscriber to get the other shows, okay? So we'll do one free show every single week next week. But this week, every day at 2 o'clock is going to be free, okay? All right, I got to bounce. I got to get the radio show out of here. Thank you for the support, for watching and hanging out with us. You all have a wonderful night, and I'll talk at you on 95.3 MNC in just a few minutes. Thank you.